YNW Melly is one of the few musicians in the hip-hop industry who has been able to garner as much attention and controversy as he has. The budding musician from Florida has been making headlines for his distinctive style and infectious songs. Still, his suspected participation in a double homicide is what really catapulted him into the public eye and propelled him into the limelight. During the course of the investigation, additional pieces of evidence have surfaced that have the ability to impact public opinion about Melly's guilt or innocence. This video will go into the disclosures made by one of Melly's close friends, providing light on the events surrounding the case and investigating what this newly discovered information implies regarding the rapper's potential guilt. In this riveting investigation of YNW Melly's legal struggle, in which we will unearth the truth behind his friend's alarming allegations, we ask that you prepare yourself in advance. A friend of YNW Melly's has come out with fresh information that implies Melly is guilty in the double homicide case, which is a surprising turn of events that has occurred. The news has caused shockwaves to spread across the music business, and it has caused fans to wonder whether or not they should continue to support the young rapper. According to Melly's buddy, who for fear of revenge chose to remain nameless in order to protect himself, he was there on the evening of the fatal occurrence. He believes that Melly confessed to him about his role in the killings, offering horrifying details that only someone who was there at the scene would know. He alleges that Melly confessed to him about his involvement in the murders. The prosecution's case against Melly receives a significant boost in terms of its credibility as a result of this eyewitness report. The choice of the buddy to let this knowledge be known to others will likely have some repercussions. By coming out, he is putting his own well-being in jeopardy and opening himself up to the possibility of receiving criticism from Melly's devoted audience. On the other hand, he considers it his ethical responsibility to pursue justice for the victims and to make sure that the truth wins out. This surprising discovery calls into doubt YNW Melly's innocence and calls into question how we have been seeing him as an artist. It compels us to face unpleasant facts and reconsider our support for someone who may have perpetrated such horrible deeds. When it comes to YNW Melly and his claimed role in this terrible occurrence, it is becoming more and more apparent that there is more to the story than first meets the eye as we go further into the case. In an unexpected turn of circumstances, YNW Melly's buddy recently made a disturbing revelation saying that he ought to have used marijuana before testifying in court. This was a surprise turn of events. Following the disclosure of this information, many individuals are now confused and have cast doubt on the authenticity of his statement. The idea that consuming pot would have in some way helped his friend's testimony raises eyebrows, even though it is not unusual for people to take drugs to calm their nerves or increase their performance in certain circumstances. This casts doubt on his ability to recall the circumstances surrounding the case accurately and raises questions about the trustworthiness of his memory. It is essential to be aware that consuming any kind of drug before testifying in a judicial proceeding is not only strongly prohibited, but also potentially unlawful. The judicial system places an expectation on witnesses to deliver truthful and objective statements of what they saw or experienced in the courtroom. The introduction of narcotics into the mix may muddle judgment, weaken memory, and eventually damage the integrity of the testimony. In addition, the inclusion of this comment from YNW Melly's acquaintance adds a degree of intricacy to a situation that was already muddled. It casts doubt on the motivations behind his testimony, and it raises the question of whether or not there may be other influences affecting his comments. As we make our way through this complex network of facts and testimony, we must examine every piece with extreme caution while maintaining an open mind. In conclusion, it is alarming and puzzling that YNW Melly's companion suggested that he should have used marijuana before testifying in court. This underscores how important it is to be sober throughout the whole legal process to guarantee truth and justice. It will be fascinating to observe how this new material affects the final conclusion of the case, as well as people's perceptions of YNW Melly's guilt or innocence as the investigation into this matter proceeds. A close friend of YNW Melly, who is now testifying in the rapper's ongoing trial, has come forward with a crucial disclosure that has the ability to influence the verdict in the case. Melly did change his clothing on the night of the horrific double murder, as the buddy, whose name will be kept secret for reasons of safety, verified for us. The double murder took place. This piece of information is very significant because it lends credence to the prosecution's case that Melly was participating in criminal activity. Altering one's appearance after committing a crime might be seen as an effort to cover one's tracks and remove themselves from the site of the crime. It lends more credibility to the growing body of information that points to Melly being guilty and casts doubt on his innocence. Even while the newly discovered evidence does not provide unquestionable proof of Melly's guilt, it does significantly bolster the case for the prosecution. This piece of evidence will now have to be considered by the jury in conjunction with the other testimony and the forensic results. While we wait for additional developments in this high-profile trial, we must keep in mind that everyone is presumed innocent until they are found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by a judge or jury. The finding of fresh evidence in the case of YNW Melly was a pivotal moment that helped shed light on the reality that lies behind the charges. It was not a fluke or a coincidence. Rather, it was the consequence of investigators in law enforcement agencies being very thorough in their job. The procedure required a careful assessment of a number of sources, such as testimony provided by witnesses, film obtained from security cameras, and forensic investigation. The investigative teams from the various law enforcement organizations spent countless hours looking through all of the material at their disposal. They conducted in-depth interviews with eyewitnesses who were there at the time of the crime and painstakingly compared the statements those witnesses provided with the other evidence. In addition to this, they combed through the CCTV video from local businesses in order to construct a chronology of events and find any potentially suspect behavior. Experts in forensics were vital in the discovery of critical facts that would have been overlooked in the absence of their efforts. They conducted a painstaking analysis of the physical evidence that had been taken from the murder site, such as DNA samples and fingerprints, in an effort to establish a connection between the evidence and YNW Melly or his suspected accomplices. They could piece together the missing piece of the puzzle and provide insightful perspectives thanks to their knowledge and experience, which allowed them to reconstruct what took place on that terrible evening. Throughout the whole of this investigation, law enforcement authorities demonstrated a high level of devotion and professionalism, which deserves recognition. They have maintained a steadfast dedication to the pursuit of justice, and it is because of the effort they have put out that this fresh evidence has been available. As we go further into comprehending what this evidence reveals, it becomes more evident that there may be more going on behind the scenes in YNW Melly's case than first seems to be the case. The newly disclosed evidence in the case against YNW Melly implies that the prosecution's case against the rapper is becoming stronger. Although it is essential to keep in mind that no one is guilty unless and until they are proven guilty, the information presented here raises some significant concerns regarding Melly's possible participation in the double homicide. It has been alleged that the evidence, which has not yet been made public, includes essential information tying Melly to the location of the murder scene. There is forensic evidence, such as DNA samples and security film, that links him to the scene of the killings on the night they occurred. In addition, there is witness testimony that further points the finger of suspicion at him in connection with the crime. This fresh evidence most definitely lends more credibility to the prosecution's argument, even though the court must ultimately decide whether the defendant is guilty or innocent. This lends credence to the notion that Melly was there at the time of the event and may have played a more substantial part than was at first assumed. While we wait for further developments in this case, it is crucial that we allow justice to run its course and that we give all parties concerned the opportunity to submit their views and evidence before coming to any definitive judgments. That's all for today's video, guys. If you like our content, feel free to subscribe to the channel, share, and hit the notification bell to get the latest news from us. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.